So I'm the president of Zyphyr Management. We're a specialized asset management firm that we have a series of specialized funds. Our largest activity is in Africa. We've been investing since 1994. We were the first offshore private equity fund in Africa after the all race elections in South Africa. And since that time, we've spread where we are now operating virtually in all parts of Africa. We take a private sector approach to economic development. To us, economic development springs from job creation. We want to develop jobs and, most importantly, develop management skills within Africa. We'd like our companies to do well by being a good example of job creation and economic success. It's the only, in my mind, effective opposition to those people who advocate state development of economies, which in my opinion hasn't worked. My motivation is I'm a value investor. I'm not have any particular ties before investing in Africa starting 14 years ago. Value to me is the solving of the equation of an opportunity divided by the price. That is, what is the opportunities that are presented by Africa, and what is the price one pays to invest in those opportunities? The equation yields wonderful investment opportunities, in my mind, in Africa, and continues to do so. Now, our strategy, everyone has to have a strategy. There's lots of ways to do well. Ours is to build businesses to economic scale so they can be global competitors. Africa, history has left it as a continent of a number of small countries and small economies. So we support only businesses that are in multiple countries to move to economic scale. One has to have economic scale today to be effective in a global economy. Many African countries think that their competitor is the country next door. No, really. Your competitor can be Malaysia, can be Brazil, can be all kinds of places. So any business in Africa has to think about what is their position in a global economy and are they effective competitors. So we build businesses to try to also develop management. Management is, in my opinion, the biggest shortage in Africa. We're asked, what is lacking the most? It's management. In many instances, there's very great, excellent African managers, but they're in Europe or United States or somewhere, and they claim there isn't opportunity, there isn't pay or whatever. I don't believe it. Any company that builds any kind of scale in Africa can pay global wages and attract the best, and they should pay global rates to get them. So out of that strategy, we'd like our legacy to be builders of African businesses with African management and African shareholders after we divest from our investments, which are typically 3 to 8 years. And that's what we'd like our legacy to be, to leave companies that are global competitors with competitive managements and are building some businesses which create permanent jobs, which then go on to promote economic development. I've asked what are the lessons learned? I'll give 3. One is watch the playing field. You should only compete where you have the skills to compete. In our case, we can only compete in businesses that are transparent and openly competitive. There are many businesses in Africa which are neither transparent nor openly competitive. What economists call economic rent is charged for monopoly businesses or businesses that have concessions or special government licenses. We can't compete, other people can. Businesses which have transparency and openly competitive, which we like very much. Cellular telephones. The price charged for airtime on cellular telephones is open and transparent. There's no room in there for inefficiencies or corruption when you're competing against 3 other cellular phone companies. Consumer loans, the same way. The price of consumer loans, it is what it is. There isn't any room in there for economic rent. Retail banking we like. Retailing, mass retailing is coming to Africa. There's a lot of businesses where we can compete and foreigners can come and compete well. And as long as you watch the playing field and know the rules of the game, there's no reason you can't do well in Africa. The second is management. I mentioned the biggest shortage, in our opinion, in Africa is management, trained management. Mobility is relatively low in Africa for management relative to this country or in Europe. Some of these have to do with family considerations. Some are cultural, some are ethical, some are tribal, but in fact it's very difficult. In this country or in Western Europe, if you have a business, you have a management problem, you can go out and hire your favorite executive search firm and go find new management. You can't do that in Africa. So building management, finding management, or backing good people who have good businesses become extremely important. You can't go into a business that you think you can later change the management or find it. Our experiences are quite bad in that, so that's my second lesson learned. And the third is scale. Businesses must go for some scale, and scale is relative to their competition or the business segment they're in, so that they can compete on quality, price, research and development, management, or whatever criteria is used in a global economy. So whatever business you're looking at, it isn't the absolute size of the business, but it is relative to your competition. Scale is very important. We have probably been investing in Africa since 1994. This year we expect to recapitalize for our largest amount of capital ever, and so we're as optimistic as we've ever been, and we join you in supporting private sector development in Africa.